Time for us now to take a look at the main stories in the world papers. Diptyque Laurent is back with us in studio. Diptyque, can we start with one story that I have to say I do find fascinating, and it's the court ruling against Lula da Silva in Brazil.
That's right. It is quite fascinating. He's been convicted for money laundering and corruption. And there are big questions, Eve, around whether he really has a political future or not. This, as he was, of course, planning a comeback ahead of elections this year. For his part, Lula has said he'll continue the fight against these charges until the day he dies. With the support of his Workers' Party, they may now be looking for a plan B. That's according to the Brazilian paper Zero Hora, which is based in Porto Alegre, where Lula was tried. The editors at another daily, O Globo, however, say this conviction is the biggest defeat of his life because it would make him ineligible from running again for the next 8 years, by which time he'd be 81 years old and quite old.
A little love lost for him in the Brazilian press.
Well, I'd like to show you this piece from Estadao da Sao Paolo, which in this article, it's actually an editorial. The paper criticizes the fact that Lula and his, quote, worshippers want Brazilians to believe that the man in the dock was just an ordinary man being tried on these trumped-up charges. But that's not the case, the paper says. Lula was not convicted because of his intentions to run again. He was convicted because of his, quote, spurious relationships with Brazilian multinationals. Even so, Bloomberg's editors say this isn't the last word on Lula's fate. He can, after all, appeal and possibly appeal the appeals. In any case, Bloomberg says this conviction won't do much to lift the pall over Brazil's morose political and economic state. Come October, Bloomberg says, Brazil needs an honest president. That's easier said than done, though.
OK, well, let's move on to another scandal now. This time it's over in the UK. Organisers of a men's-only fundraising dinner have seen that idea closed down over allegations of sexual harassment.
That's right. It's really shocking, the sort of stories coming out of this event. It was first reported in the Financial Times this week, revealing that several hostesses at a men's-only charity event in a prestigious London hotel were groped, subjected to lewd comments, requested to join diners in their hotel rooms, and in one case, a patron actually exposed himself. Now, the President's Club hosts these black-tie dinners. They basically raise money for charity and reunite some of the biggest companies in the city, and naturally the scandal is making the front pages of a lot of the UK front pages. Let's look at The Eye, which says the city is rocked by a sexism investigation. Metro calls it Sexists and the City, in a kind of a nice headline, I guess. And The Sun, the tabloid The Sun, appropriately calls it the sleaze ball. So there you go.
And I understand that even some of the charities that would have been recipients of that money want to give it back. That's
right. The fallout continues. The President's Club, which organises these dinners, has been shut down. Recipients of the £1.2 million pounds raised are giving their money back. And one of the organisers, who was actually a director on the Board of Education, has quit his government role. The Guardian has penned a furious editorial today saying this gala shows us that gender equality is not the norm, and it's time for us to decide to change, because until we do, there'll always be guests for this kind of, quote, testosterone-fueled slimeball nights out.
But the stories of sexual harassment are coming at us thick and fast, with a very serious one over in the US. We're seeing that sentencing of Larry Nassar, convicted to up to 175 years in prison for abusing over 150 women.
That's right. And one of the most infamous lines from that sentencing was from the Judge Rosemarie Aquilina, who told Nassar, as she sentenced him, that she was signing off on his death warrant. And there you see that depicted in this cartoon here, a skeleton of Larry Nassar counting down the years in his prison cell. It was an extraordinary, frank statement from the judge, and it did raise quite a few eyebrows. But Slate reminds us she didn't cross any lines in saying that, because he had already been convicted. This was just a sentencing. She didn't need to be objective. Nonetheless, the fact that she really stood out, she did really stand out for the way she encouraged 150 young women to come forward to bring their stories, to make these harrowing tales public. She really empowered these women to confront their abuser. That's what Slate says. She then articulated the law's contempt for Nassar's offences, and she was totally justified in doing that.
Okay, well, Diptyque, before you run away again, I hope you could make us smile with a grumpy cat, brighten our day a little bit.
Well, you do know Grumpy Cat, right? She's the world's most famous grumpy feline, known for her permanently moody face. There she is. Her real name is Tartar Sauce. She's raked in a lot of money for her owner, it must be said, and now she can add $700,000 to that pile. Grumpy Cat was awarded this sum in a copyright lawsuit against a U.S. coffee company called Grenade. All this to say, Grumpy Cat is way richer than probably both of us combined, thanks to the courts today. Not sure, though, if it's enough to put a smile on her face.
No, the cat that got the cream but still is really miserable. Diptyque Laurent, thanks so much for that. It's time for us to take a very quick break now. Back in just a few minutes, so do stay with us if you can.